What can be done to fix what appears to be a broken system? Well, joining us now to discuss one possible option is a member of the United States Congress from the state of Missouri, Emanuel Cleaver. Congressman Cleaver, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you.
Now, before we get to how we fix the situation there, let me ask you for your view on what we heard that law professor saying there. He said you were just punishing someone for being poor. Is that, in a sense, what we're seeing here, is it in a sense legal extortion?
Yes, it is legal extortion. It's a lot of things. It is also taxation by citation. You have a city like Ferguson with 21,000 citizens, and 3 years ago they issued 31,000 warrants. Now, that's one warrant per citizen plus for 10,000 visitors. So there's something not only financially wrong, there's something morally and ethically wrong when a municipality exists, pays its bills, runs its government on the basis of issuing traffic tickets. And the worst part of this is when you go out and tell your police department to issue all these tickets, and incidentally, the Justice Department report does show that the mayor, the city council, not the city council, city manager, the police chief, and the courts were in cahoots. They worked together. There are emails from the chief to the city manager saying, I got $2 million more dollars in fines this year, and the city manager writes back and says, good job. When you bring more citizens in contact with law enforcement, the chances of some kind of incident, I think, increases significantly. And that's what we have in Ferguson.
Well, let's look at how this problem is fixed. Police are carrying out the law here. They're enforcing the law here. They don't make laws, they don't pass laws. They're merely taking orders here. Now, you're introducing something called the Fair Justice Act in Congress to try and fix this issue. What does that proposed law do with what, for instance, is going on in Ferguson?
Well, it makes it a civil rights violation for any community to issue more tickets than the law would require. For example, you can't generate more than 30% of your municipal revenue through traffic tickets. And if you do, there's a civil rights violation, because we know that if that happens, based on Justice Department studies, that people are being targeted. And in most instances, this is going to occur in small majority cities. These are called sundown towns. And in the case of Ferguson and a lot of other little sundown towns, they probably don't even need a police department. They need to allow the county police to take over, because we're going to continue to have these incidents because we're bringing police who are scared and concerned about everybody they stop in contact with people who are paranoid of police, and you're asking for another Michael Brown crises. And so this legislation would prevent that. It essentially eliminates any community in the United States of America from existing on the basis of issuing traffic tickets.
Right, but isn't the problem here that you would have to prove intent, proving that it was the intent of the police or the legal system to violate a person's civil rights? That's a pretty high bar, isn't it? Yes,
it is, but I think this is a de facto piece of legislation, and that is we deal almost exclusively with the facts, and the facts are you issued 50% of your municipal budget in traffic tickets, or you collected 50% of your municipal budget in traffic tickets, and so you've already violated the law. Now, we don't have to go and prove that you designed this to entrap people and minorities and so forth. The facts are there. 50% of the municipal revenues came through traffic violations, and it carries a penalty provision. I mean, this is a serious issue for the world's leading democracy. I mean, if this were happening in Argentina or some other third world country, we would be denouncing it and calling for investigations by the United Nations. But it's happening in the United States of America, and every American of goodwill ought to be just outraged over what's going on in this country.
Now, you've introduced the legislation. Are you confident that this law will make it to the statute books? Do you have support in Congress? Are you getting any help from the White House, for instance?
Well, I'm not sure that the help from the White House would be significant, but the people in Congress are, in fact, supportive. I think if you start talking to people, whether it's Speaker John Boehner or rank and file members, each of them can tell you about such a town in their state. I mean, it's not just Missouri. I mean, I'm here in Missouri, not too far from downtown Ferguson, but this is happening everywhere. I grew up in Texas. There's a town just outside of Dallas, Texas, where the same thing happens. I mean, it's all over the country, where you have small towns who can't afford to have a police and a fire force, and so they raise the revenues through traffic tickets.
Okay, Congressman Cleaver, thank you so much for joining us.